Somebody broke into my home. Somebody broke into my home and shot my wife.
Are they still in there?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, what's the address?
Let me ask you something. What would you do if you woke up in the middle of the night, your house completely quiet, your kids asleep in their rooms, and the person lying next to you, the person you built a life with, was gone? Not gone as in left. Gone as in gone forever. That is exactly what February 16th, 2026 looked like in a small, peaceful town called Tipp City, Ohio. And by the time the sun came up that morning, nothing in that community would ever feel the same again. Ashley Flynn was not a celebrity. She was not someone you would see on a red carpet or trending on social media. She was the kind of person who made your kid actually want to go to school. She was the kind of woman who showed up not just for her own family, but for everybody around her. She was 37 years old, just 8 days away from turning 38, and she was a substitute teacher and a 7th grade volleyball coach at Tipp City Middle School. Her students loved her. One man who knew her as a child said she was his 5th grade teacher and that she was the reason he started liking school. Think about that for a second. How many people can you say that about? Ashley was a graduate of Tipp City High School, class of 2006, and she went on to attend Lee University, a private Christian school in Cleveland, Tennessee, where she graduated in 2010. She was deeply rooted in her faith. She volunteered with LifeWise Academy, a nonprofit that brings Bible-based lessons to public school children off campus during school hours. She was a member and active volunteer at Christian Life Center, a church in Dayton, Ohio. Everything about her life pointed to someone who genuinely cared about people, about community, about doing good. She was also a wife and a mother to 2 young daughters named Alyssa and Ava. By all accounts, her family was the center of her world. Her neighbors on the cul-de-sac at Cunningham Court said the Flynns had been there for about 4 or 5 years and were wonderful, active members of the neighborhood. Nobody saw this coming. Nobody had any reason to. And that is exactly what makes this story so deeply unsettling. Because the danger was not outside that house. It was not a stranger creeping through the dark. The danger, according to investigators, was already inside. It was already familiar. It already knew her name, her voice, her face, the sound of her breathing while she slept. So before we go any further, if you are new here, welcome to Crime Files. Hit that like button, subscribe, and make sure you click that bell icon so you never miss a story like this one. These are the cases that matter. These are the stories that deserve to be told. Now, let us talk about the man she called her husband. Caleb Flynn was not a nobody either. He was not some guy nobody had ever heard of. In 2013, he auditioned for Season 12 of American Idol. And if you go back and watch that footage, you will see him sitting in a hometown interview segment, smiling, talking about how much he loves the Lord and how much he loves his wife. He literally said, and I am not paraphrasing here, "I love my wife more than anything. She is very, very, very pretty." He said it with such ease, such warmth. The kind of thing you say when you want the cameras to love you, when you want people to root for you. He and Ashley both attended Lee University, which is almost certainly where they met. They were a church couple, a faith couple, the kind of family that sat in the front row on Sunday mornings and meant it. After American Idol, Caleb went on to serve as a worship director at Free Chapel Church in Spartanburg, South Carolina from July 2015 to February 2021. From there, he spent some time at Equis Financial before landing a role as vice president of sales at Richard D. Smith & Sons, a family-owned commercial interior supplier right there in Tipp City. He was also serving as a music pastor and worship leader at Christian Life Center, the same church where Ashley volunteered. On the surface, everything looked fine. Everything looked more than fine, actually. It looked like a life people dream about. A beautiful home on a quiet cul-de-sac. 2 healthy little girls. 2 careers. A church family. A community that knew your name. But somewhere underneath all of that, something was very, very wrong. Because at 2:30 in the morning on February 16th, 2026, Caleb Flynn called 911. And what came out of his mouth in that call is something that is hard to forget once you hear it. Oh my God, somebody broke into my home. Somebody broke into my home and shot my wife. My wife. She has got 2 shots to her head. There is blood everywhere. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. He told dispatchers that a door leading to the garage was wide open. He said it looked like a burglary. He said someone had come in from outside. The two little girls, Alyssa and Ava, were still asleep in their rooms. They had not woken up. The family's two golden doodles were also in the home. And Ashley Elizabeth Flynn was in the master bedroom, in her bed, with gunshot wounds to her head already gone. Police arrived. They searched the area with drones and K-9 units looking for an intruder. But something was already not adding up. And the more they looked, the more the story Caleb was telling started to fall apart right in front of them. Here is where things get very interesting, and honestly, very chilling. When police began examining the scene more carefully, they found shell casings, 2 of them on the floor near the foot of the bed. They found the center console of Caleb's 2024 Ford pickup truck open inside the garage, right where he told police he kept his handgun, a 9mm. And then they found something that stopped investigators cold. The side door to the garage. The door Caleb said the intruder had used to enter the home had a large refrigerator in front of it. A large refrigerator that would have had to be physically moved for that door to open. Now you tell me, what kind of burglar breaks into a home by pushing a refrigerator out of the way, shoots someone twice in the head, and then disappears without waking up 2 children, 2 dogs, or leaving behind a single trace of themselves? That is not a burglary. That is a story, and it was starting to unravel fast. After Ashley's mother arrived to take the girls, Caleb voluntarily agreed to speak with detectives. He was taken to the Tipp City police station around 4:30 in the morning. No detailed account of what he said in that interview has been released to the public yet, but what we do know is that investigators were already building case, and the FBI was called in. The Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation was called in. The Miami County Sheriff's Office, the Miami County Prosecutor's Office. This was not being treated as a simple break-in gone wrong. This was being treated as something much more deliberate. Reports also surfaced that there had been what investigators described as heavy communication on Caleb Flynn's phone in the hours leading up to the shooting. Who was he talking to? About what? At what time? Those details have not been fully released, but that kind of detail does not make it into a court document by accident. That detail is there for a reason. By Thursday, February 19th, just 3 days after Ashley was found dead in her own bed, Caleb Flynn was arrested and booked into Miami County Jail at 5:07 in the evening. He was charged with murder, 2 counts of felonious assault with a deadly weapon, and 2 counts of tampering with evidence. The following day, Friday, February 20th, he stood before a judge, looked the courtroom in the eye, and said 2 words, not guilty. His bond was set at $2 million. And while standing there, he said, I just want to take care of my daughters. I am not a risk. He had been in custody since Thursday. His wife had just been buried. And those 2 little girls were now without both of their parents. Now let's talk about what happened after the arrest, because the community reaction to all of this tells you everything you need to know about who Ashley Flynn was to the people around her. Tipp City is a small town, the kind of place where everybody knows everybody, where you wave at your neighbors from the driveway, where the local restaurants know your order. And when news broke that Ashley had been killed, and then that her own husband had been charged with her murder, this town did not go quiet. It lit up, but not with anger, with love. Red and white ribbons began appearing all over downtown Tipp City, tied to lampposts, traffic poles, trees lining the main street through the historic district. Each ribbon had a tag attached to it. Some had Bible verses. Some had messages of hope. One of them read, Live like Ashley, love like Jesus. And if that does not tell you exactly who this woman was to the people who knew her, I do not know what will. Local restaurants held fundraising days in her honor. An online fundraiser was launched with a goal of $50,000. Within 2 days, it had already crossed $96,000. People who may have never even met her personally were opening their wallets because the story of who she was moved them that deeply. Tipp City Council held a moment of silence. The mayor, Logan Rogers, addressed the community. One council member, Phil Cox, said something that really stayed with me. He said that in large cities, something like this might just become a statistic or an incident. But in a small town like Tipp City, it is a tragedy. And he was right. Because in a small town, you cannot separate the victim from the community. Ashley was a community. Her church, Christian Life Center, released a statement through Pastor Jordan Paul Hansen. He acknowledged the shock and sorrow the arrest brought. He asked the congregation to pray, to avoid gossip and speculation, and to be a church marked by wisdom, restraint, and love. 2 young daughters have lost their mother, he said. A family is devastated. And he was not wrong about any of it. A celebration of life was held on Sunday, February 22nd at 4 in the afternoon at Christian Life Center. The family asked for privacy. They requested no public memorial. Instead of flowers, they asked that donations be made to LifeWise Academy of Tipp City, the very organization Ashley had poured so much of herself into. Even in death, she was still giving. And then there was a statement from Ashley's own family. Short, measured, but heavy. They said their hearts were shattered. They said Ashley brought endless light into their world. And then they said something very specific. They said that after speaking with both local police and federal authorities, they trust that the proper steps were taken and that the process is being handled appropriately. They did not defend Caleb. They did not attack him. They simply made clear that they believe the right person is behind bars. So here we are, a faith-filled town, a faith-filled family, a man who sang worship music for a living and told a television audience he loved his wife more than anything in the world, and a woman who spent her life pouring into children, into her church, into her community, found shot twice in the head in her own bed while her daughter slept just down the hall. A preliminary hearing is scheduled for February 26, 2026. No official motive has been released. The heavy phone activity in the hours before the shooting has not been fully explained. There are questions about who Caleb was communicating with and why, and what those conversations contained. The FBI is still involved. The Bureau of Criminal Investigation is still involved. There is clearly more to this story that has not come out yet. And when it does, it is going to answer a lot of questions that right now are just sitting heavy in the air. But here's what I want to leave you with, and I want you to really sit with this for a minute. Ashley Flynn was 8 days away from her 38th birthday. Her daughters are going to grow up without their mother. They're going to have birthdays and graduations and wedding days, and she will not be there. And the person accused of taking her from them is the very person who was supposed to protect her more than anyone else in the world. So I want to ask you something, and I genuinely want you to think about this. How well do we actually know the people closest to us? How much of what we see in a marriage, in a family, in a life, is the truth, and how much of it is the version someone decided to show the world? What does it take for someone to go from, she is very, very, very pretty on national television, to being charged with her murder 13 years later? Is it something that builds slowly over time? Is there always a warning sign that gets missed? Or are some people simply capable of living 2 completely separate lives without anyone around them ever knowing? And maybe the hardest question of all, what does it feel like to be those 2 little girls right now? To have lost your mother and to have your father behind bars, and to be trying to make sense of a world that has completely collapsed around you? Ashley Flynn deserved better. Her daughters deserve better. And this story is far from over. If this hit you the way it hit me, please do not just scroll past. Like this video, subscribe to Crime Files, and hit that bell icon so you are notified the moment we drop updates on this case, because there will be updates, and you are going to want to be here for them. Share this with someone who needs to hear Ashley's story, because the least we can do for her is make sure the world knows her name. Rest in peace, Ashley.